Remember when heavy metal ruled our lives? When great albums and great concerts came out every month?
Yeah, the 80s.
Well, it's time to look back at those days, so take out your old vinyl,
And cassettes.
put on your denim jacket.
And raise your fist in the air.
It's time for the 80s Metal Hang, a classic heavy metal podcast.
Oh, yeah.
This week on the 80s Metal Hang, we're going to share our personal opinions on the best of the best, the rest of the rest, and anything metal from the year of 1983. The album covers, the musicians, the videos, the concerts, the hidden gems, anything and everything from the world of heavy metal in 1983.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to this one. This is fun. I was sitting home taking my notes, like, which one do I like best? Oh, my God. And it was really fun.
Yeah, I mean, we've concluded the 12 months of 1983, so we figured, it's like wrapping up our season, I guess, that we would go back and give our personal opinions on what we think was some of the best about 1983. Yeah,
we keep saying our personal opinions because people tend to go berserk when they don't agree.
Yeah.
But it's not really like if we say best guitar player, it doesn't have to be the best with chops. It's who's the most solid, who did the most, who does have the best chops, all around. So keep that in mind. It's our opinions.
It's also hard, and we've talked about this in different individual episodes about, trying to think of, because I think some of the albums I'm going to say are my favorite are not, I probably had other ones that were my favorite back then, but they haven't really stood the test of time. For me, a favorite album from back then is one I still listen to.
And nostalgia, too, plays a big part in it.
Yes, absolutely. If you saw the band on tour, where you were when you first heard the songs, you and I have talked about, if you learned the songs for your little band, that kind of gave you more of an attachment to it also.
Yeah.
So what do you want to start?
Oh, man. Do we do this like the Grammys and save the best album for last? You pick one.
All right. Well, let's. What about album covers? We haven't heard the albums yet, so we're not going to talk about drummers or guitar players or best songs or anything because we had to buy it first before we decided on those other aspects. So
this was tough because the album covers were still, a lot of them weren't really that good.
No.
We've mentioned them in our episodes, but to me there were a few standouts.
Okay.
I summed everything up to 3. I don't know if there's a specific order. You ready?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to go with Bark at the Moon by Ozzy Osbourne.
Okay.
Who doesn't love a werewolf? Then Y&T Mean Streak.
Okay.
It's a cool, like, metallic-looking snake. And I don't know, the last one between Shout at the Devil and Melissa. I like Shout at the Devil, but it's kind of like just Spinal Tap with a pentagram. But I do think it's cool. And I know it's not all of the cover, but when you open it up, it's cool. It has the 4 huge pictures of the guys.
Shout the Devil, yes.
Yeah, I used to love that as a kid. So those are my 3.
So to recap, it was...
Okay, I'm going to say Y&T Mean Streak.
Okay.
Ozzy, Bark at the Moon.
All right.
And Motley Crue, Shout at the Devil, or Melissa by Merciful Fate.
All right. I was only going to overlap with one of those with you. I would agree with you about Shout at the Devil. It was just so, like, in Spinal Tap, what they say, it can be none more black. Like they're just staring at that album. And of course, AC/DC's Back in Black, and there was Metallica's Black Album later on. But just even like pulling my old record out, and we were looking at it during the Motley Crue episode, it's like kind of glossy. You can see the pentagram, the way you angle the album.
Yeah, that's what's cool.
And the inside cover, the back cover where they're inside a giant, almost looks like a giant, like Iron Maiden, like where the spikes close on them. Iron Maiden, the term Iron Maiden was more of a coffin though, I think, right?
Yeah, it was a torture device.
Right.
Put people in, it had knives and they closed it.
So I would go with Shout at the Devil. And I was trying to talk about the torture device, Iron Maiden, but I would choose as my second cover, Iron Maiden's Peace of Mind, which, it's still early in Iron Maiden's career, still early in my fandom, so I didn't know all the great album covers that were going to follow. But, the detail of Derek Riggs' illustration, front and back, inside, even some of the pictures that they had. I love the inside it's not part of the album cover technically, but the inside sleeve photo of them sitting at the medieval
Oh
dining
yeah.
room table with the brain on the table. I just love the whole artwork and layout of the entire album. So I would choose that to go along with Shout at the Devil. And for my third, I'm going to say, because I know that I bought it for the cover, is Quiet Riot's Mental Health.
Ooh,
I
good one.
remember buying it because of the cover. It's got a, I don't want to say an Iron Maiden-like character, like an Eddie character, but it is, a mental patient in a straitjacket with that mental health mask on. So I know for a fact that, do I have posters of it in my house now? No. But it's something that definitely drew me to buy the album. So I'm going to go with those three, which are Motley Crue, Shout at the Devil, Peace of Mind, Iron Maiden, and Mental Health, Quiet Riot.
Nice.
All right. So those are album covers. So now we have the albums.
Yeah.
And we're home listening to them. You're a fledgling guitar player. I'm a fledgling drummer. Do we want to talk about musicians now?
Yeah, sure. Why not? Since I'm a guitar player, I'm going to go opposite, and I'm just going to go drummer.
Oh, okay.
All right, my top three. Drum roll. I'm going to say Tommy Aldridge.
Okay.
He's solid. He's just, you think of 80s, you think of Tommy Aldridge. Then I'm going to say also Tommy Lee of Motley Crue. Because, as Rob said in the previous episode, he made drumming cool. You watch him play and you say, I want to do that. He just looked so cool. And the last, probably Dave Lombardo. I mean, at this moment, he was just a fledgling maniac, but he still played like hell. No
which is exactly what they were going for.
Yeah.
Cool. I like that list. The top three for me, I would put Tommy Lee in there also because of the presentation, of the looking cool aspect, the stick twirling. I talked earlier in an episode about Looks to Kill video and seeing him in that and thinking, drums are the coolest thing you could do. So there was a lot of good drummers. It was hard for me looking back at all the drummers. I thought about Dave Lombardo. I even thought about Lars. I know Lars gets a lot of hate now, but back then, Lars and Kill 'Em All was the inspiration for some of these heavier bands. So unfortunately, he didn't really progress much over the next few decades. He kind of regressed. And I don't think Dave Lombardo is there yet. He's not doing the double bass just yet. But there were a lot of good drummers, a lot of Long Island drummers from 1983. A.J. Perot on You Can't Stop Rock and Roll, Guy Gelso on Zebra's first album, Frankie Banali from Quiet Riot is solid. But I'm going to go with Tommy Lee, and then the next two are going to be like co-MVPs, Nicky McBrain and Vinny Appice.
Good.
Nicky McBrain and Vinny Appice are two of my favorite drummers, beyond 1983. They're two guys who have a unique style. They're both kind of loose players. I don't mean like sloppy. I just mean they're just feel guys, and they're single bass drum guys. They never fell into the double bass stuff. They're big on rudiments and big rolls, and they're just really tasty, unique players. It's very hard when you hear a drummer playing on a song for it to be identifiable. I think it's sort of easier for a guitar player. Like if you hear, you say, that's him, that's him. They have a certain sound, certain tone. But I think with drummers, it's a little bit harder. But I think if you listen, you could tell a Nicky McBrain drum part. You could tell a Vinny Appice drum part. The two of my favorite drummers, like I said, and to this day. And Nico makes such an impression on Peace of Mind, opening with Where Eagles Dare, the fills that he does in Still Life, into Tame a Land. So I think my co-MVPs for 1983 are the drummers, Nicky McBrain and Vinny Appice, and then Tommy Lee.
Nice. I almost went with Lars too. Like you said, maybe technically he's not that great, but I love his fills, his choice of fills. I don't know what it is, but I just think they're cool. So that's that.
Yeah. I mean, this is still the beginning. It sounds crazy, but, bands we're going to talk about when we get to 1985 and 1986 are influenced by these 1983 drummers and guitar players. And maybe you don't have some of the later heavy bands like Testament and whatnot if they didn't hear Kill 'Em All, if they didn't hear Show No Mercy. So those are the drummers. I'm just going to throw this in there. I was thinking about drummer from Accept, who's not as well known. His name was Stefan Kaufman. And we had talked about his Fast as a Shark double bass that he did on the 82 album Restless and Wild. I thought about him, but Balls to the Wall album, he got very simple. And he kind of almost made a conscious effort to simplify, almost like the way Priest did in the 80s. So he wasn't on my list. But strangely, he actually left Accept with Udo, and he became a guitar player.
Really?
So the guy that everyone credits as like this forefather of heavy metal double bass from the Fast as a Shark song became a guitar player and producer for all of Udo's solo work. Weird.
Very interesting.
I just thought I'd throw that chestnut in there. What about guitar players? This is a big discussion.
All right, so this is tough. These are my choices for the MVP for 1983 guitar players. Also, keep in mind it's not about technical prowess, how many notes you could play or how loud you are. It's the all around. What did you contribute? It is how good you are, of course. You know how tasty your playing is. If you could be identified by a handful of notes. So anyway, here we go. My first is going to have to be Jakey Lee. I mean, he just came out and he has such a cool style. He looked so cool. Like he was one of those guys I saw on stage and I'm like, that's what I want to do. He was all over the stage. Someone once told me that when he's on stage, he moves around like a cat. I don't know what that means, but it kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, Jakey Lee, he's just great. When you listen to the Bark at the Moon solo and the end solo, especially, it's amazing. My second would be Brad Gillis. He's all over the place in all of the 80s, whether it's Speak of the Devil or Night Ranger, and he's always good. He's solid. And if it weren't for him on Speak of the Devil, I don't know if I would be the same guitar player. I mean, he made me love the Floyd Rose. I have a love-hate with Floyd Rose, and anyone out there, you know what I'm talking about. It's great to have. It sucks to maintain. But, man, if he didn't play that Speak of the Devil, I never would have heard of Black Sabbath, and he put so much into those songs. They were exciting. I can't say enough about Brad Gillis.
It's funny, too. In 82 and 83, he comes out with 3 albums, 2 Night Ranger albums and Speak of the Devil. So
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Solid.
A lot of impact on guitar players back then.
And third, it's tough. I may have to go with Carlos Cavazo.
Okay.
He had a cool style. I liked his tone. I liked his style. And the songs are great in Quiet Riot. And when I saw him on the US Festival, I was like, all right, this guy's cool. So that's
your 3.
That's my 3.
It's 3 good choices that helped develop your own style moving forward as a young guitar player.
Mm-hmm.
So I like it. I know we talked about guitar players, but how about specifically single guitar solos?
Oh, yeah. That's...
Again, there's no Eddie Van Halen release in 1983, so...
Calm yourselves.
If we don't mention his name, that's why.
All right. You want to go first?
I guess I'll go first. I mean, I don't have, again, the technical vocabulary for some of these guitar solos, but, for me, a lot of times it's the solo memorable? Is it part of the song? Can you hum it? Can you, remember the melodic nature of it? So not just speed, not just, again, I don't even know some of the difficulty levels, but I was going to say Bark at the Moon. I know I've heard a lot of guitar player friends talk about Jakey Lee and how I think maybe the outro solo at the end is even more impressive than the solo in the middle. So I was going to say Bark at the Moon. When I was doing research on drummers, I didn't do heavy research, but I was listening to Holy Diver, listening to Vinny Appice, his different quick fills, and I was listening to Stand Up and Shout, and Stand Up and Shout solo I think is really ripping that whole song. Side 1, first song, first Dio solo album, first introduction to Vivian Campbell. So I was going to include the Stand Up and Shout solo. And then for short, melodic kind of soloing, I was actually going to say Photographed by Def Leppard. A lot of times with the more produced commercial songs, you only have like 16 measures or something, to get a solo across. You don't necessarily have, different fills at the beginning of songs or an outro solo necessarily. So you got a very little amount of time, and Phil Collins was brought in as a new guitar player for Def Leppard to do the soloing. I mean, that's why he was brought in. He basically only did soloing on the album. Most of the rest of the album was already recorded. So I think he shined
He sure did.
on
Yeah, good
Photograph.
choice.
So those are my three.
All right. Now, this is the beginning of the 80s where the guitar solos didn't really become a huge thing yet. I think it's a lot more prevalent as we go with who's better and who's flashier, who has a shinier guitar, whatever. But I'm going to say my favorite three solos. My first is going to be the solo in Night Ranger, You Can Still Rock in America, both by Brad Gillis and Jeff Watson. It's a great solo. It's melodic. Technically, it's great, and it's memorable. I remember as a kid watching it and being like, I'll never be able to do that. All right. Then my second is gonna be funny you should say Def Leppard because I chose the same album.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna go with Foolin'.
Okay.
For some reason, I love that solo. It's just so cool. And like Rob said, it's not about how many notes you could play and how fast you could sweep pick an arpeggio. I don't care about that. I care about, do you remember the melody? Do you remember the feel? And that's what I think this has. I mean, you wouldn't, when someone says, what's your favorite solo? You don't think you're going to say Def Leppard, but I think both of the solos you mentioned are great. And my third, I'm going to go with Kirk Hammett on Hit the Lights, Metallica. Just because basically that whole song is like a solo. And as a kid, because we talk about this when we were 13, I thought it was like the coolest thing. When you heard a solo, it was like, whoa. But then when you hear a song with it, like it seems like the whole thing is a solo. It was just like a cornucopia of music notes.
A crockpot of guitar notes?
Yes. So I'm going to say the team of Brad Gillis, Jeff Watson for You Can Still Rock in America, Phil Collins on Def Leppard's Foolin', and Kirk Hammett on Hit the Lights by the one and only Metallica.
Nice. Good choices. Good choices all. Again, just our personal choices. And a lot of
Yes.
guitar players you may be a fan of either weren't around in 83, didn't come out an album in 83. So we're just sticking with the albums we spoke about in our previous dozen or so episodes about 1983. You know how many albums we spoke about this year?
Oh, no. I'm sure you do.
I did try to count. It was 60.
Oh
we
my
talked
God.
about 4 extra albums because we did a special episode on Ozzy's 1980s output. So we talked about 4 extra albums of Ozzy's, but it was about 60, 61 albums just from 1983 that we spoke about.
See, I'm glad you do this type of stuff because I would not have expected 60.
And something else that I did is I looked up what the best selling of those 60 were.
Ooh.
You have any guesses what the best selling 1983 album that we covered in the hard rock metal world was?
Of all time or in that year?
Kind of both. Just it came out in 83.
Def Leppard.
Yes. Pyromania was number 1, but the top 10 best-selling albums from 1983 that fit our hard rock metal genre. At number 10, Headhunter by Crocus. Number 9, Aldo Nova, believe it or not.
What?
8, Balls to the Wall by Accept. 7, Lick It Up by Kiss. 6, Peace of Mind by Iron Maiden. 5, Bark at the Moon. 4, Kill 'Em All. 3, Shout at the Devil. Number 2, Metal Health. And number 1, Pyromania.
Wow.
So, I mean, when I'd say top 10 in our genre, like Headhunter by Crocus was the 150th best-selling album of the year. But in the top 150 albums from 1983, those 10 fit our genre. So those were the top 10 hard rock metal albums, sales-wise, from 1983. So as we go back to 1983, let's talk about the bass players and drummers.
All right, so this is also tough. I'm choosing by impact and how well they played for what the song called for. My first, of course, is going to be Bob Daisley from Ozzy, and he's just been there for the whole ride. He wrote the lyrics. He plays awesome bass lines, so melodic, just so bouncy. I don't know how else to put it. Bob Daisley, he's my personal favorite. The second, I'm going to say Cliff Burton. That is because of attitude. He he was just on fire. That guy in that band, he was aggressive. He was in your face. He was the type of guy that said, "You don't like bass? Well, I'm going to hit you with my bass," or something like that.
Right.
He was just so, I don't know, in your face is all I could say. So he did a lot. He showed people that it's cool to play bass. It's cool to be in the front with your bass, not hiding in the back. And
Nice.
my third, I'm going to say the old Rudy Sarzo. He's just like, he's an all-around rock star. He's played with almost everybody since the old days. So, I mean, he's up there, he's playing, he's solid, he looks cool, he got great stage presence, and, he's Rudy. That's it. That's my choice.
Nice. So, good choices there. I am going to add to that. I'm going to add Steve Harris to that, who you talked about being up front. Steve Harris became a, if you look at Judas Priest and Ian Hill and AC/DC, Cliff Williams, you always, a lot of times bass players are in the back. And Steve Harris is basically, center stage, fighting for the spotlight with Bruce Dickinson. And I mean, he's up in the mix. Steve Harris wrote 90% of Iron Maiden songs back then. So just as a band leader, as a songwriter, as a presence on the stage, I think one of the identifiable visuals of Iron Maiden isn't just the lights and Eddie. It's Steve Harris with his foot on the monitor.
Yeah.
Pointing his bass out and, being able to sneak close to the front back then at an Iron Maiden concert and look up and see Steve Harris looking down at the crowd with his foot on the monitor,
Yeah, what bass players did that back then,
Yeah, and so it was, and then he would it hit the next verse, and he'd just sprint from one end of the stage to the next, and so Steve Harris, I would choose.
And just a note about that, I remember when we were kids, we were watching a video or something, and he had his foot on the monitor, and he was singing, mouthing the words.
Yes,
and I remember you said something like, "Why is he mouthing the words?" It's like he's making sure we know he wrote the songs, or something like that.
Meanwhile, as a musician, I became a big word mouther also. I was always like mouthing the lyrics whenever I would play. Maybe it's like a memory trick thing. You remember where you are in the song by doing the lyrics. I don't know. But yeah, he was like, I have to tell you, as Bruce is singing them, I wrote this.
Yeah,
I wrote
just making sure you remember I wrote them.
Exactly. You take my left, but I'll take yours too. That was mine. So what did I say? Steve Harris?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say Cliff Burton too, just because people talk about him so much, and he had a bass solo on the first album. Even that choice to make on the first album was kind of gutsy for a new band.
Was.
Like we only have 10 or 11 tracks, so let's make one of them a bass solo, So and even announce it bass solo, and then
Take one.
Yeah, it's so distorted. It also makes me think of another bass player who I don't think is anybody's technical bass player influence. But what about Lemmy? Lemmy almost sounded like a guitar, Sometimes he would start off the songs, the Motorhead songs, and it would just be like so distorted and, so I don't know if I put him in the favorite bass player category, but it just got me thinking. The sound of that kind of similar to what Cliff Burton was doing. And then I'm going to give you, just to be a jerk, I'm going to counterpoint your Rudy Sarzo comment.
All right.
And I'm going to say Chuck Wright for 1983.
Ooh.
Chuck Wright only played on 2 songs on Quiet Riot's Metal Health before being replaced by Rudy Sarzo. He played on a song called Don't Want to Let You Go, and he played on Metal Health. So that means that when you hear Metal Health and you hear the dun 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 dun, that bass breakdown in the middle,
Yeah.
it's not Rudy playing it. It's Chuck Wright playing it. What? So not that Rudy doesn't have the ability to play it, but it's just like a hidden bass play, almost like Bob Daisley. We keep mentioning Bob Daisley, but he also, doesn't get we're giving him more credit on this podcast than a lot of people have in the past about, his songwriting, his contributions. So I don't know what my 3 are. I just said like 4 or 5 different names, but those are my bass players in 1983.
Nice.
And singers?
Oh man, this is tough because there's so many good singers.
It's hard not to be influenced by their performance today, because a lot of these guys are still on the circuit, and some of them are ruining their legacy.
Yeah, go out with grace.
Nobody does. They want to go out with a sack of money
and a bad wig. You want me to go first?
Yeah, sure.
All right. I don't think any of my 3 are going to be a surprise to anybody.
And I'm worried my 3 are going to be the exact same as your 3.
It's almost a cliche, but it's a cliche for a reason, I guess. The first I'm going to say is Dio, the old Ronnie James Dio. Big voice in a small package. He's just all around great. not just his work ethic and his writing, but his vocals are just they're insane. He's just so good and so powerful. And yeah, I mean, technically, I don't know what it takes to make a really great singer, like as much as a vocalist would tell you, but I know he just sounds great. The second, I'm going to say Bruce Dickinson, the old air raid siren, as they say. On didn't they write that on Number of the Beast?
Yes, Air Raid Siren.
Yeah, and you listen to it, and you, especially live, and you understand why. But this guy, man, holy crap, he could sing, he could hold notes for like an hour. So that's my second, and my third, of course, is going to be Jeff Tate.
Oh yeah, I forgot about him.
Yeah, he's just starting out, but I mean, he was, I think, the first I've ever heard him do this operatic type of vocals, not screaming mimes, not shouting like Dickinson or Dio, but actual sounds like opera. And it's his range is incredible from low to high. So those are my choices. Dio,
Nice.
Jeff Tate, Bruce Dickinson.
Somehow, I forgot about Jeff Tate. I forgot that the Queensrÿche EP came out in '83, so I'll give you that one. I'm not going to repeat that one, even though it just sparked a light bulb moment for me. I was going to say Bruce Dickinson. Bruce Dickinson, not for just the performance on Peace of Mind. He has not embarrassed himself. You know, he is someone who's still pretty high quality. Now 43 years
Yeah.
later. I was also going to choose Dee Snider.
That was going to be one of mine too.
Unique, powerful vocalist, quite a stage presence. We just joked about not going out gracefully, a lot of these singers. What sounds like he is, because he sounds like he really is done. He was just backed out of a Twisted Sister reunion tour, only to be replaced by Sebastian Bach. But if you can imagine Twisted Sister without Dee, I can't. I think he sings he doesn't sound like anybody else, really. I mean, you Can't Stop Rock and Roll came out in 1983. I like that just as much as Stay Hungry, which is their bigger hit album. But Dee, you know, his presence, his vocal ability, his power, the way he delivers the lyrics, I think are something to be impressed by.
I saw him in Best Buy a few years ago.
Nice.
Yeah, I was in Setauket. I was like, oh, it's Dee Snider.
One time my brother-in-law called me and he was at some store and he's like, Dee Snider's in the store. And, do you want to come down? I'm like, no, not really.
Yeah.
I mean, he seems like a great guy and all, but I wasn't going to get in my car and speed there just to bother him in the Stop and Shop line.
I think I just looked at him and said, hey, Dee.
What else can you do?
I know.
And I was going to go Dio again, but I've talked so much about Vinny Appice and Vivian Campbell that as you were giving yours, I just wrote down another name and I wrote Ian with a question mark, and not Scotty, and Ian Gillan. And I'm probably thinking of the body of work, maybe more than Born Again. But people say it was a weird match, and people say, did he really fit with Sabbath? Could he really sing the Dio? And I think the reason is because he has such a unique voice. He has such a voice all his own that was well known from Deep Purple. He's actually going to, in '84, go back to Deep Purple and do Perfect Strangers. I'm just impressed with his wacky lyrics, his screams. There's a reason why people say, Dio can't sing Ozzy or Ian Gillan can't sing Dio. It's because they all have such unique voices that they're not just mimicking the style of someone else. So I think Ian Gillan, Craig and I fell back in love with Born Again this year. And a lot of that had to do with Ian Gillan's unique delivery over those Iommi Geezer Butler riffs.
Yeah, definitely. I didn't even think of Ian Gillan. I love his voice on that record. I wish he would have stuck around.
Yeah. He's still around, man. Deep Purple is like just came out with another album and they're like all in their 80s.
I mean, he stuck around in Sabbath. I thought he was a great fit for that record.
Yeah. It's a shame they never did anything after that. So let's talk about videos. Videos, seeing videos was a big part of how you got into music. It wasn't just the album covers. It wasn't just hearing a random song here and there. Sometimes the first time you saw a band was a video. So I'm going to talk a little bit about favorite videos. I'm going to choose Motley Crue's videos from Shout at the Devil, not just Looks to Kill that I talked about inspiring me to want to play like Tommy Lee, but they also had one for Too Young to Fall in Love, which was kind of a comical video of them going through a Chinatown. They ended up fighting different ninjas and things and ridiculously slow action kicks and punches where Tommy Lee, Nikki Sixx, Vince Neil, Mick Mars defeated and saved a girl or something.
And at the end, Tommy Lee eats the rice.
And throws the rice bowl at the guy.
Yeah.
I always found that funny. Again, why are they walking through a Chinatown dressed like they're Shout at the Devil outfits? I don't know, but who cares? It made me want to listen to it more. So, Molly Cruz videos from the Shout at the Devil album. I'm also going to choose Flight of Icarus from Iron Maiden. Not just because I love Maiden and love the band, but even more like they had a performance video for the Trooper with intercut black and white movie footage. But I liked Flight of Icarus because it looked like they were recording the album. Since then I know that they were probably just pretending like they were recording the album. But as a 13-year-old, I was like, wow, that's really footage of them recording the vocals and just Bruce in the vocal booth, seeing Nico on the drums for the first time, and they dressed Nico up. I don't know if you remember, like a Grim Reaper kind of guy, had him standing up on a cliff. At the end of the video, he holds out a brain. I just thought it was cool seeing Dave and Adrian, soloing next to each other. Me again, not knowing much about recording techniques now, I thought that they were, recording an album all in the same room at the same time with Dickinson in another booth. But whatever, even though they were recreating it, it looked like it was filmed in Compass Point, which is where they recorded the album in the Bahamas. So I loved the Flight of Icarus video. Who had really bad videos? From 83.
Any really bad ones?
Bad ones. We talked about one of them once.
Oh my God, where to even begin?
Dios. I thought Dios were pretty bad.
Yeah, Rainbow in the Dark was interesting. I still don't know what type of guitar that Vivian was using in that.
What did we say? It was a pawn shop guitar?
Yeah, it was like a Sears guitar. It looked like a Sears guitar. It was all thin body and it was weird.
And the other video that I was going to mention was going to be the Bark at the Moon video, just because of the connection to the album cover. His, I think he was in hours of makeup. Like, it's not a zip up costume. It's actually like, plastic on his face and all the hair and everything. And it was a lot of people tried to, I don't want to say Ozzy was acting necessarily, but it just seemed kind of spooky and old British looking with the fog and everything else. And, for some reason, I didn't find that as corny as Dio walking around in Holy Diver with the big sword, or Crocus and Screaming in the Night being tied to different like torture devices and rolled through a prehistoric town. Like, there was a lot of weird videos. But Bark at the Moon, and an honorable mention to You Can't Stop Rock and Roll video, which was just
good
Twisted
choice.
Sister and just jeans, and they used to have the denim vest, the sleeveless denim vest with Twisted Sister on the back, like they were a bike gang, and they were driving through this little van in England, and then they ended up performing like in some bombed out alley somewhere in England until these investigators who were following them until their heads exploded. So, honorable mention to You Can't Stop Rock and Roll by Twisted Sister.
And he could chew a toothpick like no other in that video.
While driving and singing.
All right, so I'm going to go with my videos. Not a lot to choose from yet because the videos are just...
Yeah, there's no Metallica videos. There's no, Slayer videos.
So, all right, I'm also going to go with Bark at the Moon. Who doesn't love a good werewolf? And Ozzy is a werewolf. That's a bonus. So that was good. The production was great. The makeup was great. I mean, like Rob said, this was a painstaking process. I think they said he had the hairs put in like one at a time or something. It's crazy. I can't picture Ozzy sitting there being that patient. It's like, will you get on with it already? Come on. My second is also going to be Motley Crue. I'm going to specifically pick Too Young to Fall in Love. I must have watched that video 100 times. It was just so funny to us, especially like I said at the end when they're walking off camera. Tommy picks up the rice and he eats it. And it's terrible, so he throws it. I thought it was a great video and a great song too. And my last pick is going to be Zero the Hero. It's just the horror lover in me this is the disturbing video. At the last actual metal hang we just had physically, it was like a week ago. We were talking about this, me and the guitar player Mike. I don't want to say his last name. But we were like, it's such a creepy song. It's so like driving and just dun 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 dun. And the video is just it's evil. I love it.
Yeah, we did just have like a dozen or so guys. We all got together and talked about all this stuff. And obviously Bob Daisley was spoken about. And actually, we played some songs from Born Again as we were hanging around. We played a lot of these songs. What about a hidden gem from something that we listened to this year in that from 1983 that like, wow, I didn't think that would be good, or it was better than you thought it was, or better than you remembered it?
Rail?
One, two,
Um,
three, four, rock and roll.
oh, unexpected gem. Maybe Witchfinder.
Witchfinder General, which we
Yeah,
talked
Witchfinder
about on
General.
that was December episode, or no, October November episode, I think. It's a good one. I remember us also Savage's Sirens. I remember
Yeah.
us thinking that that was better than we had expected. For 1983, it was good and ahead of its time, and so that was another one. And it's weird because going back, I there's some albums that I don't like as much as I liked back then. There are some that I just have never stopped liking. There's some that I've listened to over and over again that I don't actually listen to it much anymore, like Peace of Mind or Holy Diver. But I think we got to get to our favorite albums of 1983.
Oh, I wish we had someone come out to read these off the card.
Yeah, I mean, or some kind of giant board. I mean, no one would see it on a podcast, but I feel like we should have like some sort of big giant screen to flip them over like Jeopardy questions as we announce our top five. Well, Craig and I talked about this. We were going to do top five, but we realized that we were both going to have Holy Diver and Peace of Mind.
Who wouldn't,
So
right?
we said, forget Holy Diver and Peace of Mind. We've talked about them already. So now we came up with our top three. So if we had a top five, Craig and I combined, Peace of Mind and Holy Diver would be in there, but now we're going to give our individual top three.
We got Maiden and Dio out of the way. We all know that it's not fair to have them in this category. All right, so album of the year. I'm going to say my first one's going to be Def Leppard Pyromania for many reasons. That album came out and it exploded. It changed everything. It went from 0 to 100 in like 2 seconds. I like every song on that record. I remember talking to people like, what's your favorite song on it? What's your favorite song on it? So that's why. I mean, it's well written, it's well produced, it's great, it still holds up. And Def Leppard is became one of the greatest bands. Second, I'm going to say Metallica, Kill 'Em All. That is another music-changing record. They came out, they did things that people had never heard before. They inspired bands like Slayer, and anybody you hear playing fast or in your face, you could thank Metallica, Kill 'Em All. And I'm also going to say Motley Crue, Shout at the Devil. Again, back then, that record, I loved every song, except maybe Helter Skelter. It was, I don't know why they put that on there, but I thought it was great. I thought the band was great back then. They looked so cool and badass with those weird leather costumes. You look back now, it's a little funny, but back then it was so cool. So I'm going to say that's it. Def Leppard, Pyromania, Metallica, Kill 'Em All, Motley Crue, Shout at the Devil.
Nice. I think if I was asked this question on December 31st, 1983, I would also have Shout at the Devil. I'd probably have Mental Health, but I judge this more on albums that I've enjoyed, listening to in the 90s, in 2010 and 2020. So my top three to go along with the already agreed upon Holy Diver and Peace of Mind, I'm going to choose AC/DC's Flick of the Switch, which is not considered for most people even top 5 AC/DC album or even top 10 AC/DC album. But I have a lot of good memories about that album. I still like to listen to it. It's got Guns for Hire, Flick of the Switch, the song Rising Power, This House is on Fire, Bedlam in Belgium. I love it. I always loved it. And I have great memories of, trying to learn songs off of it with my cousin Andy and us going to see them as our third concert ever. So I'm going to choose Flick of the Switch by AC/DC. The next one I'm going to choose is another one that's out there. I'm going to choose Fastway's first album.
Okay.
Because, going through the 60 albums we've gone through for 1983, there's really not a lot of them that I still listen to and think yeah. And Say What You Will is not even one of the top 5 best songs on that. We Become One, if you could see, Heft, Another Day. There's a lot of couple good slow songs on there. So I just always loved the Fastway album. Again, it might be nostalgia. We've mentioned before that I saw them 3 or 4 times open for other bands like AC/DC, like Iron Maiden, but I just think it's still a fun record to listen to. And when we re-listened to all these this year, I found myself listening to it again a week or so later, not for our podcast job, just for pleasure. And another one that I'm going to choose, I just mentioned a few minutes ago, You Can't Stop Rock and Roll by Twisted Sister. In a lot of ways, I like it more than Stay Hungry. It's probably because I'm sick of, I Want to Rock and We're Not Going to Take It. But it's got a lot of good songs on it. And I think if you see Twisted Sisters live, if you ever saw them live, they played the songs a little bit faster, a little bit heavier. But the kids are back. We're going to make it. Live to Ride, Ride to Live. The title track, obviously. I just really like that album. I think it's an I don't want to say undiscovered classic, but it should have sold 1 million copies before Stay Hungry even came out. So those are my 3 for 1983: Fastaway self-titled debut, AC/DC Flick of the Switch, and Twisted Sister, You Can't Stop Rock and Roll. Very cool. Other things that happened in 83, we had a couple of cool festivals, the US Festival and the Dortmund Festival in Germany that happened in December of 83. Actually lost a lot of people from 1983 also. There's a lot of people we've talked about who have passed on. So, everyone, just recently, Ozzy and Ross the Boss from Manowar died within the last year or two. But just think about all the people from back then, whether it's Robin Crosby, whether it's Lemmy, Eddie Van Halen, Randy Rhoads, Cliff Burton, Eric Carr. It's just a lot of Jeff Hanneman. The brothers from Pantera, just a lot of musicians from 1983, all these albums that we're talking about. There's a dozen or so names I just said who are sadly no longer with us.
It's nuts. A lot of legends gone. They're not making legends anymore.
It's weird though. Like so many albums have 4 or 5 good songs, like whether it was Night Ranger or someone, it's just never a full album that you could listen to from beginning to end. And, obviously 50 guys in their 50s talking about things from when they were 13. Obviously there's a lot of nostalgia involved, but strangely there's albums that I don't like. Like I don't like listening to Motley Crue much anymore. I would never put on Mental Health really, if not for this podcast, but back then, I was probably wearing a Quiet Ride shirt and a Motley Crue shirt in December of 1983. So, but that is 1983. Anything else we want to talk about?
I don't think so.
So we're done talking about 1983. We're going to do a couple of special episodes, this being one of them. And then we're going to get back to the calendar and start talking about 1984. So that's coming in a couple of weeks. And just make sure you comment, like, and share anything you want on the podcast, whether it's through email or Instagram or Threads or Spotify or whatever. Look for our Spotify playlists, our YouTube playlists, and that's the best of 1983.
Yeah, we'd love to hear what you guys think too. I mean, who do you think is the best guitar player, best bass player? What's your favorite album? Tell us why.
Thanks to all the people who have commented already, and we'll try to get to some of those comments on a future episode. Thanks for listening. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at the 80s Metal Hang.
That's 80S.
Where you can see photos in our weekly episode scrapbook.
We also have a YouTube channel with video playlists that pair with each episode.
And on Spotify, we have playlists highlighting the albums and songs discussed each week.
And please be sure to subscribe and comment wherever you get this podcast.
Oh, yeah.